And we are live. I suppose we are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the GOG live stream. It is me, Chris, or 8-Bit as you know me. And for me, this is a very, very special evening because it is the release of Thimbleweed Park, and I have a very, very special guest with me tonight. The man not only behind Thimbleweed Park, but many, many other great adventure games. It's Ron Gilbert. Ron, it's so nice to have you. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
You're doing good. It's been about a day since Thimbleweed Park has been released. So how has this crazy roller coaster been for you so far?
Yeah, it's always hard when you release a game, because there's so many things that have to happen. There's, all these stores and all these, the social media stuff and, interviews and all this stuff. So it's the first 2 or 3 days are always completely nuts when you're releasing a game.
So I suppose no calm and relaxing weekend for you ahead.
No.
So if I may, I just started playing the game as soon as I got my GOG key yesterday, and I gotta say it was great going into this game for me personally. It's definitely something I didn't really expect. It's a very grown-up game compared to Monkey Island, for example. It's very self-aware, but at the same time, it was kind of like a feeling, I'm back home again. I'm back into this multiverse of LucasArts-style adventure games. And really, I thank you for that. It's been great, basically going back into my childhood once more and enjoying this game. It was great. It
was kind of like that for us making it too. It was going back to that feeling that we had, making those games and, being a team again. That really was a part of the feeling for us too.
Mm-hmm. Was that, by the way, kind of like a motivation or spark to make this game to begin with, to bring that back? Or how did you even had this idea to make this game?
Well, I think a lot of it came from Gary Winnick and I were talking one day at lunch just about the charm that a lot of those old Lucasfilm games had. And, although we like a lot of modern adventure games, they really seem to be missing whatever that weird charm or feeling was that those games had. And just, started talking about whether we should, whether there's something we could do to, kind of recapture that charm or create that charm again.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of weird with adventure games. I had the feeling, coming from Germany, that they were never really gone, because I remember there have been always adventure games somewhere. In the past, 15 years ago, it was more in the back burner, but they've always been there, but it has changed quite a bit. How would you say, do we see a resurgence of adventure games, especially now with more mainstream games from Telltale and, other games that take other forms like Firewatch, for example? How would you see this current genre?
Yeah, I think there have. A lot of games like Firewatch and Gone Home and games like this, and the Telltale stuff. They're more narrative driven rather than puzzle driven, right? But at the core, there's still adventure games, right? There's just kind of a different focus on them. So I don't think adventure games ever really died. I think they just kind of morphed and changed into different into slightly different things.
Yeah. So, Thimbleweed Park was completely founded via Kickstarter. And it actually reached its goals rather fast, and also a lot of stretch goals. Would you have even expected in this current landscape of games that it would be such a success, the campaign?
I didn't know how successful it was going to be. I was fairly confident that it would probably succeed just because, nostalgic games do fairly well, on Kickstarter. But, the fact that we did, twice what we were asking for and stuff like that was a nice surprise. Yeah.
And it brought back Boris Schneider-Jone, which makes me personally very happy, which, we do have players from all over the world right now in chat, but let me get there real quick. Like Boris Schneider-Jone, for you guys who don't know him, did the German translation for Monkey Island back in the day and became quite of a cult. But Ron, how did you become aware of that this translation became such a cult and decided to bring him back?
Well, I wasn't really aware of that, at the time, because we did Monkey Island and, Boris did Maniac Mansion as well. But it actually took several years, for that to really kind of creep over to us. We didn't have the internet, right? So,
yeah.
You'd release a game and you wouldn't hear about the game for 6 months, and so things were just a lot slower. And then, especially with releasing the game in Europe, it was just kind of this weird black hole that the stuff would go into, and it wasn't, for 2 or 3 years later that it kind of popped out of that black hole. So, it took a while to kind of understand that, and you, Boris and I have always remained friends over the years, so when we did the Kickstarter, Boris said, "Hey, I'd love to do the translation." So that's how he came on board.
It's really great. Yeah, since we are currently at the beginning of the game right here on the stream, did he actually voice the guy who dies at the beginning of the game? Since he has a very distinct German accent and is also called Boris.
Yeah, no, he did not voice. He did not voice Boris. Yeah, that was done by it was a German actor. It was an actor that we hired in Germany to do the voice, voiceover. But it's not actually Boris, the translator Boris.
Gotta say, for me personally, for a game with this kind of visual style, hearing voice acting out of it, it was a little bit. For me, it was new. I mean, of course, there were other games with this kind of style, like Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, who had voice acting as well. But I always played the versions that never had any voice acting. So I gotta say, it was really cool to see that. And was that one thing that you always wanted to do, but back in the day you just didn't have the resources or the technical possibilities for it?
Well, I think, when Maniac Mansion came out, we really didn't think about it, right? I mean, that game came out on a Commodore 64, and it was just so technologically impossible. That didn't really even enter our minds to do that kind of stuff. And even with Monkey Island, I mean, that was early enough that it just really wasn't possible to do that. Monkey Island 2, the Sound Blaster card had come out and it had some very limited digital speech, and that's when we started to think about, wow, it'd be really nice if these characters talked, but it was still a couple years too early, to be able to do the speech. But I love voice in games, being able to have actors come in and, have their takes of the characters, I think is wonderful. And I, doing Thimbleweed Park, I just always knew, that this was going to be fully voiced, that it really had to be fully voiced in a lot of ways. I think a lot of, kind of modern adventure gamers who, this might be their first experience at a point and click, adventure. I think they expect voice. I think it's one of those things you just kind of expect in a game today. So we really had to do it.
Were there also some other small additions that you made to the game, just to, not only to appeal to the, established fan base, but also to new adventure game players? Like, I noticed that you have like the notebook that always keeps track of things that you might want to do. Were there other considerations that you made in that direction?
Yeah, there were some things. There was, the notebooks are a big one, kind of keeping track. I mean, the notebooks, they're not a hint guide, right? They don't tell you how to solve the puzzles. Right. They just kind of keep track of the things you need to do. Other things were, when you talk to people in the game, they'll tell you something to do. They'll say, oh, I need this to happen. And back, we were doing Monkey Island, they would tell you that once, and they would just never tell you that again. Because we just expected players to write that down and remember it. And, with this game, if you go back and you talk to somebody a second or a third time, they'll tell you again what it was that they wanted. So there's just a little bit of that, repetition of information. So things like that, we did on the design. And then we also have 2 modes in the game. There's a easy mode and we call it casual mode and hard mode. And in casual mode, a lot of the harder puzzles are kind of removed from the game. So people who aren't real experts at playing point and click games, they could go in and play casual mode and still get the real experience of a point and click game, but without all the really hard puzzles.
Yeah, I gotta say, so far I'm about 3 hours in the game right now. There have been a few puzzles that I have been thinking, where I had to think about the solution, but nothing that eventually came out of and eventually said like, oh, how was I supposed to figure that out? That made absolutely no sense. So there's always this puzzle design. Also in your older games, it's a really really fleshed out the concept that you made there in terms of puzzle design. Is that a really hard challenge for you, or by now is it just a routine?
I mean, it's certainly a lot easier than it was. If you look at the design for Maniac Mansion, right? I mean, it was kind of a mess in a way, right? I mean, you had all these characters, you had all these dead ends, there were all these things with it, and it was really between Maniac Mansion and Monkey Island that I kind of, came up with this whole concept of these puzzle dependency charts and mapping out the puzzles and understanding how they were connected and not having dead ends and death and all of those things. So, I kind of developed this technique for doing that stuff and trying to make sure that the puzzles were, logical and made sense. But it is a lot of work. A lot of times we would think of a puzzle, and the more we thought about it and tossed it around, we realized, oh, you know what, the player's never going to figure that out, right? And so, it's like, okay, well, we got to do some hints, or maybe we need to move this thing to a different place in the game so they'll see something before. So, there's a lot of really thinking about how puzzles, will present themselves to the player, right? They're not just kind of a bunch of random things. You have to think about how the player is going to, engage with them.
Yeah, since we're saying like having pen and paper always ready in these older games, do you still think that this is a valid strategy that you can expect from a player to write something down, or do you think like the game should keep track of that and all the player needs is just the game and the monitor and keyboard, mouse and stuff?
Yeah, I think with a lot of modern gamers, I don't think they are writing everything down, like they used to, which was one of the reasons we did the notebooks. When you were playing Monkey Island or Maniac Mansion or Indiana Jones or Zack or any of those games, you had a pencil and a piece of paper by your side, and I don't think gamers really do that today. So the notebooks are just a way of us going, you know what, we're going to keep track of that for you.
Yeah, and it's really great. I can't just recall like one point where it's like I don't want to give too much away, but a safe combination for ransom. But there was like a number that you could easily remember and always go back and see everything. But yeah, so far, I still do have actually my notebook right here on the desk right now because I expected I should maybe make notes. But so far, it has been really, really streamlined. But, speaking of puzzles, let's put them apart. What else would you say was like the hardest part for you to do? Like, was it the humor, the writing in general, or what was that for you?
I don't know if there's really a hardest part. There's just all these pieces that go together. You have your narrative and your story, and then you have your puzzles, right? And those can't be separate things, right? I think that's one of the things if you look at like good point-and-click games and bad point-and-click games, a lot of it just comes down to the puzzles being separate from the narrative. That the designers have created this story that they wanted to do, and then there's just a bunch of puzzles you solve for just no apparent reason, right? And to me, those things really need to be woven together. So when you're solving puzzles, the puzzles are telling you something about the world or the characters or the story, and the puzzles then move the story forward. So it's probably the hardest part, I guess, would be just intertwining those two things in a way that just feels really natural to you.
Yeah, like it's basically yes, I'm not giving anything away since we are currently at the beginning of the game. Like basically the whole solving of this murder case that we saw at the beginning is basically in form of a gigantic puzzle that is then connected to many other puzzles and goes on from there. So yeah, that's I can imagine it's like a huge challenge. And going from there, have there been like any lessons you learned personally from your older projects, mistakes I did in the past and I wanted to avoid this time around?
I think the big mistake, or the big thing I've really learned, is just to try to be very clear about what we expect the player to be doing. So, it's not about making the puzzle easy, and it's not about, giving them hints, but just being very clear, that, this is a door and this is the kind of key that you need to open that door, right? And, really adventure game puzzles, if you really think about them, like they're all just locks and keys. I mean, that's all they really are, right? It's just, it's a door and a key, but it's just, the metaphors are just all changed. They're not literally doors and literally locks, but if you kind of think about the puzzles like that. And so it's really just, it's being clear about what we expect players to do. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I learned. And I really, learned a lot of that, not really from the games I did at Lucasfilm, but it was really the adventure games I did at Humongous Entertainment, which were for kids.
Right.
And, when we were building adventure games for kids, we had to be very, very clear about what we expected, right? If you're building a game for a 6-year-old, they don't have that same ability to do those leaps of logic that adults have. So we just have to be very clear about, this is what we want you to do. This is the puzzle we expect you to solve. And I think a lot of those lessons really translate into kind of modern audiences in some ways. Since we were talking about other adventure games that exist nowadays, there are like these Telltale games, and there's also other games like The Witcher, where you can make like huge differences in the world by just picking a certain dialogue option, and the paths of the story suddenly branch out. Was it something you considered for Thimbleweed Park as well to incorporate into the game, or was it more like the linear approach that you went for, like with the Monkey Island series, for example? Yeah, we wanted to do a more linear approach with the stuff, which was a lot more like Monkey Island was in a lot of those games. Doing branching stories can often be hard because a lot of times I'll play these branching stories and I'll feel like really there are 10 different stories and there's really only one good one, right? It's like a bunch of bad versions and the good one. And I almost feel like, well, just get rid of all the bad ones. Just show me the really good one, or just have 3 really good ones. And so I think that's the challenge of doing, branching stuff. But, I think for a future game, I'd probably like to spend a lot more time and really do a really intricate and complicated branching story, not just that, here's 3 different endings or 5 different endings, but just having this really intricate spider web of ways that you can navigate through the story, and that's really the game, right? The game is all about navigating the spider web.
And I must say though, I see, or at least from my perspective, there is part of that in Thimbleweed Park already, because you get thrown into this world and expect kind of like to solve this murder case there, but then suddenly this whole town opens to you, and you have which we're gonna see in a few minutes, like those flashback scenes that suddenly explore another character, and you kind of get the different the huge picture from kind of different perspectives. So that's already there is already kind of like a web there in the background, right? And that wasn't really part of the older games that you did in this.
Well, the story is linear in that there's kind of one basic ending to the story, and you move through the story in a fairly linear way. But the game itself is not linear at all, right? I think somebody described the game as an open world adventure game. That there's just so many places you can go, and you can do things in so many different orders that you never feel like you're on a track, right? You never feel like, oh, well, now I have to go here and I have to do this, and then I do this, and then I do this. You really can just kind of wander at your own pace, and that's the kind of thing that we don't don't open up to players immediately because you would just be completely lost, right? So it's like we start you out on a fairly linear path where we kind of want you to do some stuff, and then we slowly open up the world. So as you get more comfortable with the world and the characters, then it starts to open up and become very nonlinear.
I just had a train of thought there, which I almost lost. But, since we're talking about that, I just had to think about this, that actually the game in parts reminded me a little bit, due to the non-linear storytelling, with flashbacks and all that. It kind of reminded me a little bit more of a very light-hearted Pulp Fiction. I had to say, but and since
Pulp
I
Fiction, the comedy.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, of course, very lighthearted, but that brings me to inspirations. Were there any specific inspirations you had during designing Thimbleweed Park or coming up with the idea?
I think there were probably two really big inspirations, and one was Twin Peaks, and David Lynch. Because both Gary and I are really big David Lynch fans, and I really like Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is kind of about this small little town, and there's this murder and a lot of strange, interesting characters, which I really like. And I think the other inspiration was Stephen King, and the books that he does, because he often writes books about things going on in these small towns that seem very nice and quaint and everybody's friendly, but there's this real kind of evil that exists, just underneath the surface. Yeah. And so I think those were probably our two big inspirations.
And speaking more of inspirations, when I first launched the game, of course, first the art style, but second, what I immediately noticed was the music, which at first, and I'm also drawing another inspiration, which you probably didn't think of. It kind of first gave me kind of an Alan Wake style in a little bit, in some sense. Was the music something you had in your mind immediately, or something kind of a process to find it first? Like, was there an evolution to the music in the game?
Well, I knew that I wanted music that was fairly, kind of soft, right? It's like I didn't want, a bunch of, bouncy music in the game because, you're trying to set a mood for this game. And it's kind of this weird, mysterious, kind of creepy mood. And and so we really wanted the music to kind of reflect that. So, Steve Kirk did all the music for the game, and I mean that's really what I told him. I didn't really tell him much more than that. And he just kind of sent me, different drafts of stuff, and it didn't take long, before we got stuff that went, oh, you know what, that's what we want. And then Steve just went off and did the rest of it.
It's really cool. Saying like with the style of the game, but now the art style, there is like it's really graphically it's going back to the root, but is much more detailed. Like for me it may look like, oh, this is exactly like Monkey Island 2, but if I put them together, there is so much more detail going on. Were you immediately decided on choosing this style, or because there are other games nowadays, especially in the adventure genre, I have more this drawn style or maybe a 3D style. Was it something you considered as well?
Well, we always knew that we were going to do pixel art, right? Because I think that is kind of true to the the genre back then, was doing pixel art, and I also just love pixel art. I don't look at pixel art as a technical limitation or trying to recapture the technical limitations. I just kind of look at it as a wonderful art style that I really, really like. And so we always knew we were going to do pixel art. So doing kind of hand-drawn art or, really high-res, art was just really not something that we were going to do. It was always going to be pixel art.
Yeah. And did you maybe have some, especially during the funding of the game, did you maybe think like, since there are nowadays also, like, there are a lot of games that use pixel art, that use, this retro look. And there are players who say like, oh, it's another one of those pixel games. Pass for me. Did you have any concerns that they would say that about your game as well?
Yeah, a lot of concern. I think that's probably the biggest hurdle that we have, in terms of kind of marketing for the game, is just getting over that in a way, because people do, maybe they look at a screenshot of the game and they go, oh, I'm not interested in this because it's got the pixel stuff. Yet there's a really interesting, captivating game there for them to play. So that's been a huge challenge for us. But I think there's, even if you don't do that, if we had just done high-res 2D art, there's a ton of high-res 2D art games out there as well. So I think anytime you're doing this, you're always battling something, in terms of being noticed.
Yeah, definitely. Saying with the art style, I just learned recently that like a lot of those 2D pixel art games are actually using like a 3D scenario or 3D scene to make things like scaling, perspective, and all sorts of effects happen. Does actually Thimbleweed Park use a 3D, or is it actually a true two-dimensional game we're looking at right now?
It's probably like 2.5D. It's like it's not real 3D, but there are all these different layers of parallaxing that go on. So, as things are moving in the foreground, they're kind of scrolling at a different rate than the thing that's moving in the background. And so it's kind of this 2.5D, that's going on with it. But it's not, it's not real 3D per se.
Yeah. Staying with the technical aspect, I really want to know, does the game actually still use a form or evolution of the Scum engine, or do you use something entirely new nowadays?
Yeah, it's completely different.
It's completely different.
There's I think if you talk to like David Fox or Jen or any of the people that did programming on it, there's definitely kind of the way that you interact with the engine as the programmer is very similar to the way Scum worked. But the technology is completely different. I mean, there's no way Scum would have been able to do this game, right? Because, we have real-time lighting effects that happen when characters walk underneath lights, and all this stuff goes on. That's the kind of stuff we just couldn't do in Scum. I mean, Scum couldn't have done all the different parallax levels and the color space and all this kind of stuff. So we just built an engine from scratch to do this game.
So no chance of seeing Thimbleweed Park running in Scum VM at some point in the future.
Probably not. Although, I mean, they have gotten Scum VM to run an amazing array of different games. So I wouldn't put it past the Scum VM people to figure out how to emulate it.
Are you actually happy about such developments? Like Scum VM. People keeping those games alive and basically reverse engineering the whole process behind them. Do you think that's great, or are you like, hey, that's my child, don't do that?
I think it's great. I think it's really good because we kind of exist in this era where technology is moving really fast, and a lot of games would just be unplayable, right? If it wasn't for Scum VM, it would be very hard to play Monkey Island or Maniac Mansion or any of these types of games today. And so having things, having emulators, I think emulators are incredibly important for keeping the history of video games alive.
Definitely. Yeah, because with updates nowadays, there were like a lot of reports of suddenly games breaking with yet another Windows 10 update. So I'm personally, since I'm really playing a lot of games, even down to the Atari, for me it is very important to having a way to preserve. And Scum VM is definitely Scum VM, DOSBox, and whatnot. I think those are incredible and really important tools. And speaking about tools, nowadays we have like all these amazing technologies. We have the Unity engine, we have Game Maker, tools like or libraries like SDL. Does Thimbleweed Park use some sort of a tool chain or library, or even a pre-made engine, or is it all in-house development?
We don't use Unity. That's probably the question I get asked the most is, are you using Unity for this? And we're not using Unity. We do use the SDL simply for Windows management. We don't use any of the SDL rendering stuff. But I use the SDL simply to bring up windows and to deal with mouse input and keyboard input, because that stuff's just boring to do. So I'm happy to let SDL handle that. But we do all of the rendering, outside of the SDL though. But that is kind of the one big thing that we do use.
And going from there, since you started working on your first games, how would you say how much has game development changed overall, and how does it differ from back when you made Maniac Mansion to now when you made Thimbleweed Park, which is coincidentally 30 years now, which is mind-blowing.
A lot's changed and a lot hasn't changed. I mean, our tools are so much better. Being able to use things like Photoshop instead of DPaint, and having really nice IDEs for compilers and debugging tools. I mean, all these things are just wonderful to have these days, and so things like that have changed quite a bit. In terms of making the game, back when Monkey Island was made, I had to worry about how many floppy disks. It's like Lucasfilm came to me and said, hey, Monkey Island has to ship on 5 floppy disks, right? Yeah. And so throughout the entire production, I was just paranoid that we were going to, suddenly be over 5 floppy disks. Well, I don't have to worry about that right now, right? I mean, Thimbleweed Park, I can be as big as I really want it to be. And so things like that have changed. But just things like, game design and working with a team of people and the creative process. I mean, all that really just stays the same.
Speaking about team, how many people did it take in total to make Thimbleweed Park?
I think it was probably about 15 people in total were on the game. Some of them weren't on for the entire time. I think at the height of production, I think 12 people was kind of the most that we had working, at any time on the game.
Okay. By the way, I would like to interrupt real quick. Of course, dear people in chat, you can submit your question as well. And actually, I saw a question in chat right now. Does this game run at 60 FPS? And I think it does.
It does and it doesn't. It's kind of an interesting question because it does run at 50 frames a second, right? If you look at the screen scrolling and all of these things, all that is like 60 frames a second. Yeah. But the actual internal animation of the characters as they animate and stuff, that's actually only at 12 frames per second, which was what, Monkey Island animated at. So there's these kind of 2 different frame clocks that are running. There's the internal animation and the kind of the pump that runs the events of the engine. That's only at 12 frames a second, but the graphics all run at 60 frames a second for smooth scrolling and lighting and things like that.
Yeah, and smooth scrolling. I remember reading an article recently was it actually another interview? I don't know exactly anymore, where you detailed how difficult it was to get the scrolling working in Maniac Mansion. And do you really welcome that you now have such a good hardware that you basically don't need to care about how it is done anymore? Because some developers really embrace restrictions and kind of want to build their game around that restriction. Are you part of them, or are you just like, I'm really happy that I have so much memory that I can basically make whatever I want?
Yeah, I'm really happy with lots of memory. I think constraints can be good, but they can also be a little bit limiting with things. So I like not having those. And it's easy to look at this game and go, well, it's just 2D graphics, right? I mean, how hard can that be? And in some respects, that is true, right? I mean, we can just over-render things as much as we want on some levels, but later on in the game, you take control of this ghost. And when you're playing the ghost, there's, all these full screen effects that happen with kind of waviness and all that stuff. Yeah. That was the kind of thing that we actually spent a lot of time, optimizing that and trying to get the shaders to work really fast and get us the effect we need. So, while scrolling might have been very hard in Maniac Mansion, and it's not particularly hard today, there are things about the game that is hard today to do. So I think you're always, there's always something that you're working on that's technically very challenging to get right.
Yeah, we actually had another question in chat. Once more, chat, if you want to submit a question, just, you can also type question in capital letters. That way I probably see it best. And yeah, we had another question already. Do you hope to finish your vision of Monkey Island eventually, like Monkey Island 3A?
Yeah, that would be really fun to do. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, right? Because I don't own it anymore, and Disney doesn't seem to have much interest in that stuff. So I don't know whether that would happen. I mean, if I had the opportunity, I would certainly do it. There's no question about it.
Man, that would be great. Quite honestly, I would absolutely love to see this. Really. But yeah, let's gonna get to my own questions. My train of thought was now interrupted. So yeah, going back to Kickstarter a little bit, how would you describe describe your experience with Kickstarter, like overall, like producing a game for fans and not for a publisher? Like, how was that for you?
It was pretty good for us. I think we had a fairly good experience. There's a lot of Kickstarters that, have horror stories, about what they went through. But, when we started doing this Kickstarter, we just, we wanted to be very open with people, and the development was very open. And we ran a blog that we posted, several times a week on, talking about different aspects of designing the game and making the game. And, I think, Kickstarters that succeed and fail, it's really about communication. Are you communicating well with the backers and they kind of understand, what you're doing? Yeah. So, in a lot of respects, it's better than working with a publisher. There are some aspects of Kickstarter where working with a publisher or just not doing a Kickstarter help, and that is being able to change things. It's very hard when you do a Kickstarter to then take the game in a radically new direction, right? Because you kind of told backers, hey, this is what I need the money for. I need to build this. And if you take the game in a completely different direction, people kind of, justifiably can get upset about that. Where if you're building the game just for yourself or even with a publisher and you need to make large changes because it's what's right for the game, that's just a lot easier to do when you're not doing it publicly. About Thimbleweed Park in general, we talked a lot about inspirations already, but just the main idea for the setting, the story of Thimbleweed Park, was it all like just fell in place immediately, or was it also a process over months to flesh everything out? Just the overall general idea of the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, I think the general idea probably took about a month or so, because when Gary and I were doing the Kickstarter, we kind of literally, what we did was we each wrote little one-sentence story descriptions of what we thought the game would be, and we came up with 30 or 40 of these, and then we just kind of went through and said, I find this one interesting, I don't like this one, and we kind of culled it down, and we just kept going, whittling that list down until we kind of found something, and it kind of evolved into what you see today. And that took about a month. But again, that was just big picture stuff, right? That was just the overview of what the story was. The actual story, getting all the pieces of the story together, I mean, that took the entire duration of the project. 4 months ago, we were still dealing with story issues and going, what, I think this is more interesting if we do this. So I think you're just doing that stuff through the entire project. Yeah. Where we just reached the point in the stream where we finally deal with Ransom the Clown, and he's just such a great character, I gotta say. Yeah, he's fun. I like him. What's your favorite character in the game? Not necessarily like, the best character, or, maybe just a character that you connect the most with because you dedicated a whole lot of time to that character, or just generally which one is closest to your heart? I think a couple for different reasons, right? I really like Dolores a lot, but she's a game developer, and so I have a connection with her because she wants to make games and I make games, and there's a lot of her backstory that's a little autobiographical, and so I think I really like her quite a bit. But Ransom was probably my favorite character to write for. Because he was just so nasty and mean, and he swears all the time, and so he was just really fun to write dialogue for.
Oh, he's very mean.
Yeah,
I need to learn so much from him. We have a few new questions from chat. Dark Saber was asking, does this game have anything like holding your breath for 10 minutes like you had in Monkey Island? And yeah, I just remember that scene. I didn't even know that thing existed until just a few years ago. Does this game have something similar?
Well, I mean, not directly similar, right? I mean, there isn't a character that can hold their breath or anything like that. But, that's just this kind of strange little. I mean, I like that thing because it's this weird. It's a joke, right? And when you first hear it, you think it's just a throwaway joke, right? And then you find later on, oh, this is actually important. The fact that he could hold his breath for 10 minutes was actually important to this puzzle. And so, there definitely are things like that in Thimbleweed Park where you kind of feel like, oh, well, this is just a throwaway joke. But it's actually not a throwaway joke. It actually is important, to the story. So there are things like that.
Somebody just said Ransom is based on Ron Gilbert. I don't know. Like your name is Grumpy Gamer, and I gotta say you're not really grumpy at all. At least not from what I can tell. How did the name come into existence anyway?
Oh, there's a long story for the name.
Okay.
I mean, the name is just because I happen to own the URL.
Okay.
I happen to own the URL grumpygamer.com, which I have owned that URL since like 1995, right? I mean, I've owned that URL forever, right? I never did anything with it till I started my blog. I originally created the URL because I wanted to start a website that reviewed game reviews, right?
Oh.
It didn't review games. It reviewed the reviews of games, right? And I thought that would be wonderfully meta, to say, oh, well, now we're going to review GameSpot's review of, and just kind of, pick the review apart in the same way that reviewers pick the games apart. I mean, that was the idea, but that's a lot of work. And
oh man, that would have been fun.
Apparently lazy. So anyway, I just had this URL, and so when I decided to start my blog, I just said, oh, well, I have this URL. So that's the long story.
Okay. Somebody else asked, is the physical copy of the game going to be distributed as usual floppy disks? That would be a lot of floppy disks.
Yeah, it's. I think if you put it on the small 3-inch discs, I believe it's like 700 of them.
Yeah, that would be an effort.
Wow.
Yeah, I had another thought in that direction. Like, I know there was like a physical version of Thimbleweed Park initially, like for the backers of the game, for the high tier backers. Would you say like there is maybe a little bit early to ask that, but do you think there is a chance if Thimbleweed Park does really well that we may see the game eventually somewhere in a box on a store shelf?
Well, we will do boxes. We'll do boxes for the backers. But since we're going to do those, we're also going to do boxes that people can just buy.
Oh, that's great. I need one of those, definitely. There was also another question. What did you think of Sierra Games when you were working at Lucasfilm Games?
I think we hated them. Right. I think it was definitely a rivalry between our two companies, right? And so, obviously in, Monkey Island, we made fun of Sierra Games and those things. So I think there was I think there was a respect, kind of at a, professional creative level, but there was, I think we were always just making fun of them as much as we could, as I'm sure they were probably doing to us.
I mean, I remember picking up a broken bottle of ketchup in Thimbleweed Park today, and In a Sierra Online game, I would be dead already.
There are Sierra jokes in Thimbleweed. we just can't let it go,
There was also another very interesting question, which Kilgore Trout, I think, asked, what were your inspirations for getting into game development in general, originally?
Originally, it was because I wanted to learn how to program. Mm-hmm. And I guess I was like 15 years old when I learned how to program. And, when you're 15 years old and you want to program, I think the only thing interesting to program are games, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't want to write billing systems or databases or anything dumb like that. I wanted to make games. So, you just start making games, and then that becomes something that's really interesting to you.
Mm-hmm. As we're speaking about programming, what was, and this is one of my favorite questions to ask, what was your the funniest or weirdest bug that you had during the development of Thimbleweed Park? Was there some sort of funny thing happening?
Oh, weirdest bug.
Or like some sort of a funny thing that happened during the development. If there is nothing specific, then
I mean, nothing jumps to mind. I mean, I can't remember some. I'm sure there were lots of them, but it's like it just flows together.
Yeah,
and I think we've kind of gotten to the point with the project where you spend so much time working on the game that it's just all a big blur.
Yeah,
it's like the game comes out and then you get a little vacation and a little sleep and all these things, and then you start to remember all the little pieces of that stuff.
Yeah. There was another question in chat. What language is the game written in mainly?
Well, the engine itself is written in C and C++. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what the engine is. There's a scripting language that we use for the game events and stuff, and that's a language called Squirrel.
Squirrel. Okay. Cool. Since we're talking about a lot of the technicalities, and thanks to engines like Unity nowadays, game development has. I don't want to say it's easier, but it's definitely more accessible nowadays to everyone. You have been in the business for so long. Is there any sort of hint you want to give any aspiring game developer out there who wants to make their own game?
I think the hint that I always give people is just make games. As you said, there's so many tools out there that make it so accessible. It's not difficult to take Unity and find lots of tutorials online about how to use Unity, and I think it's the kind of goal. I think it's the advice you give anybody, whether somebody says, "Hey, I want to be a writer." What advice do you have? And the advice is, well, write. Write a lot of stuff. And I think that's true of game stuff. It's like if you want to be a game designer, just design a lot of games. They'll start out as being really stupid games, and then they'll eventually be really good games. So just design a lot of games.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. And we do have some people in here in the team that do have connections to developers all over the world, and especially one lady who does one game per month, kind of as a challenge. And I always think that's amazing. There are small games, but I can imagine it's that you learn really a whole lot during that.
Yeah, doing that. I mean, that's why things like game jams are so interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Because at a game jam, you typically have 3 days to build a game, and it's a wonderful experience because you have to do everything so rapidly that it really boils down to making the really important decisions. With stuff, and people who do game of the month challenges or even game of the week challenges. You learn a lot by iterating, by doing a lot of different stuff. And I think the other kind of piece of advice that I really have for people who are getting into game design is learn about game design in different genres, right? Because I run into a lot of students who they love first-person shooter games, and that's all they really care about designing, right? And so all they want to do is just do that. And I think, well, no, you should really learn about adventure games, learn about narrative games, learn about strategy games, learn about, there's all these different games. And I think that if you're going to be a really good designer, you really need to understand all the different genres of games out there and kind of what makes them good. It's like I would probably not design a good first-person shooter game, but I certainly could do one, right? It's like I kind of know the basics of how you do that stuff, that I could do one. Or if I worked on one and, doing, like, say, the story or the narrative for first-person shooter, I certainly understand enough about the rest of it that I could, contribute to that. So I think if you're doing game design, just learn about a lot of different genres, and sometimes learn about genres you hate. What game genre do you hate the most? It's like, well, learn about that, because maybe you actually have something really interesting to add to that genre because you hate it. Because of the things you don't like about it, you can kind of go in and tweak and fix those things.
Yeah, that's really cool. We have many more questions from chat. Anonymous Logan asked, the Lucasfilm game cameos like Guybrush, Zack McCracken, and we had more like Dr. Fred and the Tentacles. Do they require legal clearances, or are they homages so you don't really have to do anything in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain leeway you have with things like parody. And stuff like that you don't, they aren't integral parts of our game. Our main characters aren't that stuff. And, we're not disparaging them in any way. We're not like making fun of them or anything like that. So you typically don't need clearance to do stuff like that.
But yeah, since we did have like so many Maniac Mansion characters in the and also Zack McCracken characters in the crowd from in Ransom's show, can we basically say shared universe with all those games confirmed? Or is it just Easter egg?
No, I think that's just Easter eggs. I think that's just David and Gary and I just kind of going crazy with that kind of stuff. I mean, anytime we do those little Easter eggs, it's always from our games, right? I mean, we don't do Easter eggs from, Sam and Max or Indiana Jones or any of that stuff. It's always from our games. And so I think that's the bounds that we set for that stuff.
Yeah. Bayan in chat also asked, do you play other games, and how often? Which ones are your favorites? I imagine you have played probably more than enough Thimbleweed Park. So do you do any other games to get your mind off of things?
I do. I don't typically play adventure games for fun, right? I play adventure games to kind of see what people are doing, but I think I enjoy like RPG games, right? If I'm going to play a game for fun, I enjoy RPGs, Western style RPGs like Diablo and stuff. I don't really get into things like, Final Fantasy and stuff, but I really enjoy kind of Western style RPGs quite a bit. So that's usually what I do if I just want to take my mind off of something. It's like I want to grab a sword and I want to go beat on things.
Yeah. Any other hobbies and activities you do to get, away from the screen?
Skiing. I love to ski. I mean, I live in Seattle, and we're very close to the mountains. So, there's a ski area that's only like a half hour from where I live, and another two that are only a couple hours from where I live. So during the winter, I do a lot of skiing. I did not do a lot of skiing this winter, I might say, because Thimbleweed Park was finishing up, but normally I like to ski.
That's really cool. I need to go back to one specific thing. I got my certificate of absolution for pirating a game, which I don't say I needed it. No. But since we are here on GOG, which is a DRM-free store, we don't want any sort of, nowadays it would be online verification or always online. How do you think of DRM, and how does it actually help preventing piracy? I mean, with the Code Wheels back in the day in Monkey Island, that was like a physical form of DRM, or a very, very early form. How do you see this whole thematic?
Well, I think if you're going to have DRM, it should be fun DRM, right? And I think that's where things like the code wheels come into play, because that was like fun DRM in a way.
Yeah.
It was kind of integrated into the fantasy, and it was kind of fun to do, and that kind of stuff. It's like, I'm not a big fan of DRM. I don't think it really stops people. I mean, every DRM system has been cracked everywhere, so I don't think that. But it's I look at it as kind of like locks on our houses, right? I mean, you put a lock on your front door, but it's really not stopping anybody from breaking into your house, right? You just kick any door down in the front of your house. And so I think, it's like DRM sometimes can be just like a gentle reminder of like, hey, don't copy this kind of stuff. But I think with digital media, I think we've kind of moved beyond that in a lot of ways. I mean, digital media, whether it's movies or, books you're reading or whatever, it's just so easy to copy that stuff. And to me, it's like, and I think this is what GOG does really well is, I think for most people, if you give people a way to buy something and you're selling it at a fair price, they will buy it, right? It's like almost if the option is steal something or easily purchase it at a fair price, a lot of people would just easily purchase it at a fair price. And I think that's really the key to this stuff is give people a way to buy things and charge a reasonable price for it.
Speaking of reasonable price, you guys should never pay more than $20 for a video game, and coincidentally, Thimbleweed Park is on GOG for $19.99. That was a good segue, I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of knew if we charged more than $20 for the game, we were gonna take a lot of crap online for just because of that.
Yeah, but if I personally, I think it's always about the value. But yeah, speaking of that, how many hours? And I know you played the game probably a long time, but how many hours would you say a new player will take to complete Thimbleweed Park for the first time?
Yeah, that's really hard to say, because people solve adventure games very differently. There are some people who are just expert pro players, at adventure games, and we send out press copies for the press to play, and a lot of the press I think is very good adventure game players, right? They've played a lot of stuff, they do a lot of stuff, and even for them, it's like some of them were playing the game 25 hours later. And some of them were playing the game, they'd finished the game in 16 hours. So I think it just really depends on the person who's playing it. So that's why I don't like to to give estimates on times for adventure games.
And there's also the normal or the casual mode, and then there is the difficult mode, which probably takes a different time frame as well. Yeah. Man, I realized we went a little bit over the time right now for the interview. I'm very sorry. I hope we didn't hold you up from your work all too much. But if you allow one last question for me.
Sure.
I know it's probably very early to talk about this, but any idea what may be next for you? Maybe more stories you want to tell in the world of Thimbleweed Park?
I don't think I would do a sequel to Thimbleweed Park next. Maybe several years down the road, but probably not next. I don't tend to think about the game that I want to work on next while I'm working on a game. I'm just kind of so absorbed in the game that I haven't really thought about it. I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about I kind of wanted to do an adventure game that is just this massive spider web of decisions, that you do through it. And I mean, that's something that I've been kind of toying with a little bit, but I don't have any plans whether I do that or not.
Why did it say I have delayed Thimbleweed Park 2? Don't shoot the messenger, guys. Oh man. Ron, I understand you still have a whole lot of stuff on your plate, and I don't really want to hold you up any much more longer, but it was really, really awesome to have you here tonight. But before I let you go, is there anything else you want to say? Any links you want to throw around? Any words? Now is the chance. Speak whatever comes to mind.
I don't think I do. I mean, we talked about so many things. I think we talked about almost everything. So try the game. Go buy the game. It's a great game.
Yes, right. Type !! game in chat, and you will get the link to the version here, of course, on GOG, which is DRM free. Ron, it was great. Thank you so much again for being here tonight. I wish you all the best with Thimbleweed Park, and I know I will have a weekend full of playing, and I hope one day you will get a little bit of relaxation that you deserve, and you can finally celebrate the release.
All right, thanks a lot.
Goodbye, Ron.
All right, goodbye.
All right, so now we should probably now continue here. And Dave, my co-pilot, which I have been completely neglecting over the evening. Where are you, my friend? Because Flayos has been playing the game for the whole evening so far. And I haven't even mentioned you yet.
I'm hurt. I'm very hurt.
I'm really, 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 really awful.
Oh no, that was great. That was a great interview. I'm jealous, 8-bit. That was awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was really a whole lot of fun to have Ron here, and I hope one day again, Thimbleweed Park 2. Come on, it will happen. We know it.
One day. You didn't delay it. I know you didn't.
No, nobody.
You can't blame 8-bit this time, guys.
No. All right, guys. I should actually type a few things right now because I have a few things to do. I should probably change the dashboard, and I'm going to do that right now. And after that, I hope you guys can watch Flayos play the game a little bit.
There we go.
And after that, I have a little bit of a surprise for you because all of you who have decided to not tune out, you will maybe have the chance to win a copy of Thimbleweed Park. Yeah, I haven't really said anything about that because I wanted, the true fans, and hopefully, that would hopefully stick around, and those should have the honor to have the chance for a copy. God.
Totally. So actually, right now, this is the perfect time to end the interview because we are going to be listening to Memories in 8-Bits. Memories in 8-Bits message. It just so happened it came to this point. So I'm going to turn up the game, actually, just a little bit, because as a backer, what was it was a backer reward, wasn't it? Memories in 8-Bits?
Yeah, it was a backer reward. I don't remember which tier it was exactly anymore. But yeah, you got a phone book entry, and you could actually record a voice mail, and
so let's look them up.
Yeah, let's see.
Chris 8-bit. I won't try and say your last name. 8872. 88. So we'll use Ray's cell phone to do that.
All right.
Hey, this is Chris of Memories in 8-bit. I'm not here right now because I went to the future to get Thimbleweed Park early, but I should be back before last Thursday. Until then, please leave a message.
Anyway, hope you guys could hear that. I'm gonna just try one more time to change that audio volume. That's so weird.
Yeah, we did, guys in chat. We did, of course, a whole lot of balancing there to make this work out properly. And I think chat actually got it.
Did they?
Seems like it. Yeah.
Okay, one more
chat
time.
is
I
wrecked.
like it so much. 8872. 8872. Maybe it's like linked to the sound level instead of the voice level for some reason.
Hey,
yeah, it's
this
possible.
Is Chris of Memories in 8-bit. I'm not here right now because I went to the future to get Thimbleweed Park early, but I should be back before last Thursday. Until then, please leave.
So yeah, this has been really great so far. And how have you been enjoying this game?
I have really been liking this game. I mean, I have such fond memories of playing Maniac Mansion. I think next week I'm probably going to just play Maniac Mansion, which is of course included in Day of the Tentacle Remastered as an Easter egg.
Oh, is it actually? I didn't really know if that was actually the case.
Yeah, it's still included. I double checked. So I would like to.
I am now gonna look up the key that I got, and then I will very soon start a raffle. There it is.
Maybe 8-bit is a bit loud compared to the game. Or to me. I'm a little quiet.
Okay.
My problem is I don't talk loud enough into my microphone, guys. I just gotta. There we go. I gotta put it right in front of my face. Maybe I can find something to put it on.
Yeah, we did, of course, balance out first, my voice and Ron, so it would be very understandable for you guys here in chat. All right, guys, I will now start a raffle.
We got some raffle hype going on, and I got to call Hogan
window?
E. So, cool thing about this game, guys, is that in an emergency call, this name changes every time. So, last time I went through the game, when practicing, it was a different name. So.
Oh, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I thought somebody was just randomly selected. All right, guys, the raffle for a copy of Thimbleweed Park for GOG is now open. So type !raffle in the chat, and you may have the chance to win a copy. I'm very happy that I can give a copy away because it's a fantastic game. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend this game, guys. It's.
Oh, see, you are actually with him in the subway.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I was actually with Agent Ray down there. She got knocked over the head. So yeah, guys, this is a raffle code specifically for Thimbleweed Park. So if you do own the game already, then don't enter it. And of course, when I draw the winner, I will need to, see your. You need to speak up in chat so I know that you are not a bot.
Good advice, Sheriff, but can you get me out of
Oh no, I forgot my dime. Oh no.
Oh, and I see you actually turned on the retro text in the game.
Did I thought, I don't know, is this the retro text?
Yeah, it is.
I guess I left it on by accident, but that's what I like.
No, that's cool. I like that.
You bought the game earlier due to my hypnosis powers. Yes, Scap. Okay, so let's check out where Ray is. We got Ray and Rays.
Yeah, I sometimes get them both confused still. I gotta say, I definitely do play right now with the German translation. And, the great thing is that the translator, again, if you don't know why this translation is so cold, is because, Boris didn't really try to translate everything word by word and hence destroying most of the jokes and puns in the game. But he rather, made German pop culture references and German puns and stuff like that. So he used, he basically kept the translation alive in spirit, but so it would make more sense and make it just as funny for a German audience. So now I've been playing with that translation, and the thing is, of course, due to the nature of that translation, it's kind of jarring to sometimes say the character something different than they actually write in the subtitles.
Oh yeah.
So I think I will actually continue playing the game either in English again or in German translation, but without any voice acting, because I think that's actually the better way to go there. Yeah.
I'm so used to being quiet for the last hour. I'm forgetting. I was so quiet, you guys.
Falco references every 15 seconds. I haven't seen one of them yet. No. Hasselhoff jokes. No. But we have like a Gardner who has like a Bavarian accent, for example, and you're just seeing that typed out, and you have to really concentrate and focus on the text so you understand it, even as a German. Which is kind of nice. Guys, the raffle for a copy of Thimbleweed Park is still open. So if you don't have the game yet and you want to have it, type !raffle in chat and you have a chance to win the game.
Do it.
And I actually need to drink something because I haven't done that.
Yeah, I imagined speaking for an hour straight wears you down a little bit. Let's double check. Oh, I should give Reyes his notebook back. Give Reyes notebook to Reyes.
Yeah, I gotta say, I really like the voice actor of both Ray and Reyes.
Yeah.
I like Ray because she's like, she's like so sarcastic and always with the rolling eyes going around, which is absolutely great. I love it.
Let's check our notebook. What do we do? The WC67. We need a WC67.
Hey there. Let's go over to the counter where we can talk. Alrighty now.
I shouldn't just translate what is said, but the meaning of what is being said. Yeah, and I think that is why
Sorry about that, hon.
why the translation of Boris Schneider-Jone is such a great translation, because it did capture the spirit. But there's also like this. If you try to speak with like this radio in the police station, you can say like a rhyme, and they even here in Thimbleweed Park they replace it with like a German rhyme that makes a whole lot more sense. Yeah, actually, yeah. And there is really like I saw a Simpson reference here. It's really true. Like in the Simpsons, they really had no idea partially what kind of like. Sometimes there was like a pun and they just translated it word by word. Apparently, they didn't even realize it was a pun and just translated it, if it made sense or not. And
that's a great name. I'm so lucky.
That's why nobody really wants to watch German dubs anymore. So I'm really happy that, we have, kind of like a better alternative in these types of games. There is still hope for translations.
Yeah, it's good. I wonder if the other translations are just as solid. Probably, hey?
I hope so. I really hope so. All right, guys. I think I'm actually gonna draw the winner for the raffle right now. You know what? Let me give you guys 30 more seconds, so you can still type raffle. And if I don't see that happening in the next 30 seconds, then I'm just gonna draw the winner. No ECAC here. No. I planned this, guys. I planned this.
Are you really this happy about selling back?
Remember, you do have to speak up in chat, though, guys.
Yes, you do have to speak up after the raffle is drawn. What kind of part of Germany am I from? Originally, very, very West Germany, and now I'm living in East Germany. So I went all over the place.
Jump the wall.
Yeah, jump the wall, basically. I see there are still a few people in chat that still want to type exclamation mark raffles. Yeah, I thought of that. But I don't know what you did the flashback of Ransom, right? But you haven't seen Dolores yet, right?
No, I haven't seen Dolores yet. No.
Okay, wonderful.
Which I think it's actually I don't know.
Very, very East Germany. So you mean France? Pretty much, hold your fire, because I'm coming from the Saarland, which was part of Germany, which was traded between France and Germany quite a few times. So, yeah, pretty much. This is where I was born. All right, let's draw the raffle.
Yes.
Let's do that.
Who's gonna be?
Draw, and the winner is Darth Circuit. Darth Circuit has won the raffle. My friends, Dark Circuit, are you still there? I'm gonna announce the winner in chat right now. Darth Circuit.
Congratulations.
He won a copy of Thimbleweed Park rigged. They're coming rigged. Okay, Darth Circuit has just spoken up in chat and said yes. So Darth Circuit, I'm now gonna write you a Twitch message with the title Thimbleweed Park, and you're probably gonna hear my mechanical keyboard
typing up a storm.
It's an empty whiskey.
Yeah, I have an MX silent keyboard, but having a silent mechanical keyboard is kind of like a paradox. We talked about this in chat yesterday. Yes, they are silent, just like a plane is silent compared to an atomic blast. That's like. All right, Dark Circuit, I just sent you your message, so if you hear that, check out your Twitch messages, which should be like the mail icon somewhere here on the left, down somewhere. You should have an icon there, and you should have your code in there right now. I don't actually know where they have. Yeah, messages. There it is.
They change things so much on Twitch; it gets confusing sometimes.
Yeah, the UI is getting a little bit confusing. And if you don't receive a Dark Circuit, just let me know. I can send you the code again.
Okay, one thing I love about this game, guys, is that every single scene has a speck of dust hidden somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you get something for picking up all the specks of dust, but I've been picking up all the specks of dust. Every single time.
I actually wanted to ask Ron what the specks of dust were about.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't pay for affection.
But yeah, I'm collecting them like crazy as well.
There is something about it.
And so here we're about to go to the next flashback.
Yeah.
Guys, you did see the what's his name? Ransom. The
Ransom,
insult clown was the first one. It was kind of hard to see without the subtitles. The subtitles got cut off by the interview videos.
Yeah.
but he was rather foul-mouthed.
Yeah, he was very. I couldn't actually bring myself. You can't choose who you want to make fun of, and I couldn't bring myself to make fun of the guy in the wheelchair.
Oh, I felt terrible.
I couldn't do that.
I did it. I wasn't gonna do it on stream because I felt so bad doing it the first time. I was like, and then I did it. So I don't know what that says about me. Just giving into peer pressure. Or...
But have you noticed that they have like both the canon from Monkey Island as well as Guybrush's code in Ransom's behind the scenes area?
I didn't notice the code. I saw the camera, or not the camera, the cannon.
Oh, there is now a raffle open for Day of the Tentacle Remastered, guys. There's so many awesome games currently being raffled out. Awesome.
Nice work, Darksaber.
If Ron Gilbert was a captain, would people call him Captain Ron? I would, definitely.
Let's see here. A leather jacket salesman, obviously. These fine leather jackets.
I haven't seen, of course, reference in the dialogue, but I kind of wish that there is actually a guy who sells these fine leather jackets. I hope so. It has to happen.
There are tons of references in this game.
Yeah. It's full of references. Now, especially now.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Like this is reference central so far. Look at that! There is a Revenge of the Sith poster on the wall.
Oh yes.
I wish I could get a job at a
Max Headroom.
Billy Idol.
Exactly.
We should check the mailbox and see if it's arrived yet.
Hey, Outstar. Did everything went all right? Everything was
we should
awesome.
be fired. Sorry.
Don't you say that.
No, it was great. It was a great interview.
She doesn't know yet. Thank you.
And then we got some lightsaber.
These are part of my action figure collection.
I'm coming back. I just somehow got my my headphone cable tangled there. It's like,
ooh, Darth Circuit. Of course. Maybe wait till the raffle is finished, and then one of the mods will be very happy to do a raffle for you to give away a GOG code.
It's graphic basic software from Hessware to supercharge my Commodore 64.
Yes.
It says it's by Ron Gilbert.
Don't watch the VOD. I mean, everything went fine. Oh, tricks. Come on.
It's my state-of-the-art Commodore 64.
Ooh, state-of-the-art C64 with a 1200 baud modem.
That's how my girlfriend experienced most of the LucasArts adventure on C64, like the old school. Yeah.
That's sweet. I've only ever had a DOS machine or Windows. I've never played the other computers.
And she was actually the reason why I really got into LucasArts. I mean, I played them when I was a kid, but we really never really got anywhere with these types of games. I remember, like, a friend's house, he had Monkey Island 1, 2, and the original Dune game. So both games, all of those games or Dune was definitely like that. You make a mistake, you fly out with an ornithopter, you got shot down, and you die. That was the first few times when you play that game, it goes down exactly like that. And so, that was kind of like, since I was mostly like just having Game Boy and NES, that was kind of like what I expected from PC games. So naturally, we didn't really get very far in Monkey Island as well. I think because, we just back in the day missed the connections in our brain. And then when I met my girlfriend, which still is my girlfriend, like over 15 years ago now, she kind of brought me back into these games. And I know we had like, it was one of the first laptops we owned, and we sat there hunched over the laptop and we're playing, the first Monkey Island, the second Monkey Island in one go.
Really?
In just one big go. And it was, since then I love these games. And that's just, maybe 2002, 2003 when we did that. So I'm not, those games are from my childhood, but I fell in love with them like 15 years ago. So there's like, a twisted kind of story. I should say Dune again. It sounds, it's nice the way I say it. Dune. I don't know if I say this right. Dune. We had, by the way, a
You're doing
Euro
a good job.
electro techno band here in Germany that was called
It's
Dune.
Spiky World, the best computer magazine ever.
Fun fact: nobody really wants to have that music now anymore.
Mucus Phlegm Games, makers of hit games,
Mucus.
3 Lines of Haze, behind Jaggy Lines. Nice.
Yeah, and this gardener here has like a Bavarian accent in the German translation, and it's actually harder to understand than his English.
It's my favorite game company. I hear they make movies too. This could be a
He was
dream
30
come
during my childhood, Kilgore. Oh, God damn it. By the way, Kilgore. Kilgore is up next with another game of my childhood. And yeah, he's going to be playing a new episode of Turok 2 in about 30 minutes. And so you should definitely stay tuned for that because it's going to be amazing.
True. Woohoo, Sparkly Wallflower, congratulations. Oh yeah, so G-Pudding, this game, fantastic. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. Especially if you liked the old LucasArts, like Ron Gilbert LucasArts games.
Definitely.
Or his humongous games as well.
I just noticed this game gives you like a lot of items, especially in the flashbacks, that you don't really need in the flashbacks.
I wondered if that was just because I was playing on casual mode.
It's connected.
But,
I was actually playing on the normal mode, but of course, every character that you see in a flashback is actually coming back later, and I don't know, maybe they still have these items then. But I don't, since it's a Ron Gilbert game, there is no, oh my god, I forgot to pick that item up back and it's back then, so I'm now screwed. So I don't know how that's gonna work.
What is your name?
I'm not sure. Let's see. Who should
Gertrude was already old during his own childhood.
What is your address?
G-Pudding.
Well, Allegio, I gotta give you a reason to buy the game. You can't just watch the whole playthrough. You gotta buy for the hard mode.
Yeah, definitely. So Dizzy Plays will start a raffle now for Quest for Glory, sponsored by Darth Circuit.
Nice.
So that's cool. So yeah, if you want to stay tuned for that, keep an eye on the chat because the raffle mania will start
What's your
very
programming
soon.
language of choice?
Yeah, thanks for the follow,
The
Legio.
language you are most proficient in.
I've turned back on notifications. Let's see.
Monday Memories, 8-Bit, and Kilgore will both play Star Wars games on Twitch, and Kilgore will reveal that he is a really 8-Bit's father.
All the questions were
That's not true. That's impossible.
Easy one.
Wait a second, we have to make this authentic, like this. No, that's impossible.
Reference counted.
Oh man, special effects of the 70s or the early 80s was that actually? When was Empire?
81.
Is on a second
81, alright. I thought it was 79 for some reason.
This is going to take some thinking.
Hey, I know I saw it in the 80s, but just because, it took ages for those games to come, for those movies to come over.
Congratulations, you passed the
And I wasn't born back then.
I guess that's a valid
I
excuse.
answered all the mucus questions correctly.
Somewhat.
I'm ready to
And
go.
since I learned English pretty early, but back when I first saw Star Wars, I was actually happy that this was dubbed, and it's for me it's actually
Just blank.
for some franchises, for me, of course nowadays whenever I can, since we're talking about translations and whatnot, for me, whenever I can nowadays, I go straight into the English translation or original language and stuff like that. But for a few franchises and media, I simply can't let go of the German dubs. And Star Wars is actually one of them because I grew up with it. It's strange. Whenever I hear Han Solo, it's like, he doesn't have that rough of a voice in the German translation.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, and it sounds right to me, I know it doesn't make any sense, but that's kind of like what triggers the nostalgia for me as well,
That makes sense. I mean, if that's what you grow up with, it's what you get used to.
Yeah.
So.
He's busy in his workshop and can't be disturbed. I'll take
I mean, by now I have seen like a lot of Star Trek Next Generation. I saw, of course, in German as well, and now I saw a lot of that in English, and I really, really like it. But yeah, and there I can imagine, like, eventually, because I haven't seen the whole show for so long, I may as well just now watch it in English, and it's gonna be great. But for Star Wars, I just can't.
Oh, nice. Okay, so here's one of those Sierra references that 8-Bit mentioned. Or not open. Pick up. Let's pick up the bottle of ketchup.
Carefully handling broken glass. If this were a Sierra Online graphic adventure, I'd be dead now. But these Lucasfilm adventure games treat their players much better. No arbitrary dash just
that's really something that made me laugh out loud when I played this today.
I love how this fridge has everything that was in the original Maniac Mansion fridge. As the batteries, now it's Poopsie instead of Pepsi.
And the grandfather clock in the foyer. If you investigate that.
Oh yes, this looks familiar.
Exactly, and I actually saw a post-mortem of Maniac Mansion and the Monkey Island today from Ron Gilbert. It was like he did that on. Was it on GDC or no? I thought it was like Gamescom or something. He was, I think, in Germany, and he actually talked about that this was one of the first animations, that grandfather clock that they did in Monkey Island, apparently. You Christensen, I'm of the opinion that German dubs are so different for me that it's like watching a different movie. That's meant in a positive way, and actually it is.
No.
There are, these rather famous Bud Spencer and Terence Hill movies, and they are considered really a cult here in Germany because of their very unique and almost improvised German translation. So yeah, that's really amazing to have them there.
Franklin, I'm just trying to, help.
Is that
Have you found a chainsaw, 8-Bit?
I did.
You did.
I did.
There is a chainsaw in the game.
Yes, there is a I think it's even called the chainsaw of disappointment.
A chainsaw
I'm not gonna tell anyone where it is. I'm gonna tell you later, Dave, if you, Flayers, if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna tell anyone because I don't want to give anything away.
No. Oh man, I feel like they reference that in another game too, where there's
congratulations,
fuel.
Squid Neko.
In one of the games, there's fuel but no chainsaw.
Maybe you could just,
or something like that.
No! It's a pillow factory.
Are you two fighting again? I'm getting so sick of this. You're brothers. Take a chill pill. You started the pillow.
Congrats, Squid and Neko.
Won't you ever stop fighting about it?
The winner.
You need to worry about
is you.
Right, Franklin,
Was that the Quest for Glory pack?
Yes,
Yeah, I think it was.
There's just been so many giveaways now.
Today was like giveaway central. It's really great.
Uncle Chuck.
Okay, I actually have to get a few windows out of the way because I have like a lot of windows open right now, and I still need to close them all.
You go for it.
Like when it happens when you do a stream, you have a lot of windows open anyway. But today I have like 10, 20 or something, somewhere between that. No, really, they're like still a whole lot of windows I just minimized in the background.
Yeah, I was trying to set up screen share after we'd started, and then just all the windows starts popping up in front of you and Ron's faces and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
like, boy, close, and then somehow.
It's fine. I think we managed pretty well.
The dead body appeared in where you were for some reason. It was It was crazy.
It's a defunct robot prototype.
You see, I just saw that I got another message from Amazon that my Switch will be delivered to me tomorrow.
It better not be an April Fool's joke.
That's the thing. It's April Fool's Day. Seriously, I don't think they're fooling me because there's really like tracking information and all that stuff. But before I don't have it in my hand because the first dates they gave me is somewhere like May 20th. And I was like, what? So long? And now suddenly April 1st. Yeah. Sure.
Just have to keep going.
I also love how in Dolores' house, the mansion, there's doors that go all over the place, just like in Monkey Island.
Yeah. I think this is one you gotta see this. This is like one huge image,
Oh
that
yeah,
scrolls all over the place. The same thing when I haven't actually. I don't remember if you did that. You can go to the Thimbleweed Park cemetery, and that is also one gigantic image. So I think they are really like I think they were really happy that they can finally scroll the way they want. It's like, yeah, let's do everything.
Yeah, we'll have to check out the cemetery next. I think. Oh no, we need paper.
You can't really do a whole lot there, I think, but eventually you will.
But at least we can see the amazing.
Yeah.
Yay! I answered all the mucus questions correctly. I'm ready to print out
The high frame rate weirds you out. It was interesting. I don't know if you were here when Ron Gilbert was talking about X Mensa, but the game runs in, was it 50 frames per second? Remember his 8-bit?
No, I think he said like the scrolling is actually 50 or 60, while the character animations is in like 12.
Yeah, 12 frames per second, which is I think what it was in the original game. It reminds me so much of playing Maniac Mansion and Zack McCracken.
Yeah. The character animations is still very reminiscent of these old games. Like it, you kind of want to say like, oh yeah, this just looks like a LucasArts game, but it's so much more detailed. But it just feels like the natural step where we kind of like left off with this style after Monkey Island 2.
Definitely, it reminds me a lot of the 256 color fan Maniac Mansion.
Yeah, exactly.
How exciting! I hope I get the job.
I don't know. Maybe you should ask Ron. Maybe you can have like a lockdown frame rate option. For extra
I have a letter for you.
For extra retro feeling there.
Good luck. See ya.
One thing that I love is that the keyboard shortcuts for the scum commands, like the open pickup push, are still there. So I can just use like QWEASD.
Yeah.
ZXV. Though I can't switch characters with F1, F2, which I was kind of bummed out about.
Oh, you can't?
Not that.
You can with the normal numbers 1, 2, 3, 4,
1, 2.
5.
That's what it is. Ah,
yeah.
See, my memory is sketchy. It's a good thing I brought that up. I love it because it's not even written anywhere in the manual. Not that there's a manual, but it's not written anywhere or mentioned anywhere. But if you've played any of the old Scum games, it might be what you're used to. So.
Yeah, exactly, and yeah, but yeah. Speaking of like this, having like facial animations and body animations and stuff like that animated with a lower frame rate, I just recently learned that like anime is actually doing it the exact same way. That they have like facial expressions. They're like just 6 frames per second, while the rest is like on these 24 frames.
Just in case it's really bad news.
That's actually really like. Because I read that like producing anime is always like budget. The more budget you can serve by producing them, the better. Which is why they have like always or often the more static scenes where just the camera pans somewhere and then you just have somebody talking but don't really move. Apparently that's like basically an established technique for them to just save as much money during production as possible, and of course make it faster because there has to be a new episode every single week.
It's crazy.
I didn't really know that they did the same thing, or similar thing with this.
Cap, to answer your question, I can't do it right now. Like O opens the options menu instead of choosing the open verb, but if there was a button to switch between the keyboard shortcuts, which I don't remember. I probably have a quick reference card somewhere around here I could check. But
actually, I don't know. I think Ron actually posted a reference card on Twitter somewhere.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, you should by the way, guys, you should follow Thimbleweed Park and a Grumpy Gamer on Twitter if you haven't done so already. Because those are accounts definitely worth following.
Agreed.
Ron just in general because he posts a whole lot of good stuff. Every single day.
To be a game programmer. I'm so excited. Can't wait to tell Uncle Chuck. He'll be so proud. But first...
Oh god, now comes the animation.
Oh, the dance. I didn't realize you actually have to interrupt this dance. I was waiting for it to end.
I couldn't do it. I was just watching that for like 5 minutes. I was like, you know.
Okay, see. I have here the Lucasfilm Classics or LucasArts Classic Adventures pack manual. And so it has, in Maniac Mansion, it was the F1, F2, F3 keys.
Okay.
But it doesn't have a button to switch between, like, using O to open instead of W to open or whatever. Anyway. Okay, I'll probably stop.
I really gotta see. When Ron told about like the Grumpy Gamer idea, picking away game reviews.
Oh yeah.
I would have loved seeing that. Seriously, like if it's done in not like a mean way, but in a really funny way, I could imagine this being really great.
Maybe one day. Piracy Monocle experience 60 frames per second. Okay.
I remember when I tried to play Extreme Assault on my computer. Great Blue Byte game, by the way. And I was like, because it was sold as actually one of the few fully 3D games that could run on a 486, but a 486 with 100 megahertz, which wasn't really all that common, but it was kind of like apparently like a mix between normal 486 and a Pentium 90, And no, the game didn't really run very well. I was just like, there were different kind of filters that you could apply, like a scanline filter, which basically just reduced the resolution in half. Yeah. I was like, oh my god, it's almost fluent. I think I have a 2-digit FPS. That's good enough for me.
I remember Terminal Velocity. There was Pentium mode and 486 mode to...
Oh yes. I actually want to play that game again, Terminal Velocity. It's been like I streamed that like almost 2 years ago here on the chart. Yeah, it was like one of the first dozens I did or something like that. I don't really know anymore, but I just finished this game like once or twice or so, but it's one of my favorite games. In terms of science fiction flying around and stuff like that. Even though it's very repetitive, it just has an awesome feel to it. It has an awesome flying feel, even though it's completely arcade, but it's great.
Have you ever played Fury 3 or Hellbender?
The thing is, I have those games all because when I bought Terminal Velocity from like somewhere, like I remember like that was before my GOG time. Yeah. I was like, I want to have that game again. I went to forums, to eBay, and I was like, oh my god, somebody has Terminal Velocity. It's in a box. The thing is, I got it, and usually you get ripped off. The box looks great on the image, but it looks shitty when you get to it. And it got to me, and not only was it just like on a photo, I opened it, and in that box wasn't only Terminal Velocity, there was Hellbender and Fury 3 as well. Just in dual cases, and not even like with cover and stuff like that. Just in normal dual cases, but both the other games were both there. I was like,
nice. That's a pretty big win.
I haven't played those yet though. Yeah. I remember I played a little bit of Fury 3 back, I think on a demo or shareware. I think there was like a Windows demo, like on one Windows version. Maybe it was even Windows Millennium, where you got Fury 3 as a demo or something like
that. Oh, Windows Millennium! What a great operating system that was.
Oh yeah.
I gotta say, I probably had a pretty good experience with Windows Millennium, which was because the PC I had back in the day. Most of the Windows 98 drivers were saying like, you can't use them on Windows ME, but if you just like manually look for driver and then specify a path, it would actually take all those Windows 98 drivers, because it was just Windows 98 with a little bit of a facelift, and it actually worked. It actually worked surprisingly well for me. I couldn't really say that it was like much worse or much better than Windows 98, but it worked for me.
I love how I'm in the shop where they sell the tubes, the cake.
Wait a second.
Shop. And
are you sure it was Millennium and not ME? Wasn't ME Millennium? Millennium Edition?
Yeah, it was Millennium Edition. That's ME. Windows Me.
Because I'm now a little bit because Sharon asks like those are two different operating systems.
Well, I didn't have much choice.
I don't think so.
People used to line up around the block
Or do you mean Windows 98 SE, the second edition, which they brought out? I had that as well.
I used to have that, and then we gave it away for some reason. So now I have 2 copies of Windows 98, and I'm not sure why.
That's all for now.
Yeah, Kilgore, Millennium Edition, ME. Yeah, I thought so. And yeah, I can't really say I had a whole lot of problems with that operating system. But, you know, it's always like what you use it for, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I found it really slow compared to Windows 98.
Yeah?
Which is, I don't know. All right, so let's see. What do we need to do? We got the to-do list here. We got to find the mirror.
The shop name is YouTube, which is.
Well, I love how you have 4 choices, and it changes it depending on which choice you get. So I chose YouTube, of course.
It's still fair use. They can do that. Oh my God, do we have Dizzy in chat? Well, we shouldn't tell him about this. Oh, God damn it.
Shh. What do I want to do? Oh, yes. I remember now. So we're getting
Sherry, there was
also
Windows 2000 was also there, but no, I never had that one. Windows 2000.
Oh, yeah, because that was a NT base still before they combined them together. Windows ME was the last non-NT, if I remember right. Maybe I don't. Let's go down A Street. Now that we've given them the vacuum tube, we can go down A Street and check out.
I think you actually progressed in the game already farther than I have, and I put 3 hours in this game already.
Oh, really? Yeah, I was playing it a lot this morning. I don't even know. I just got lost into it because it's so much fun, guys.
Yeah, it is. There have been like a lot of puzzles I had to think of a little bit longer, but yeah, I really like it. Which is also why I'm so happy that you could join me here today, because you know, adventure games, it's always something that I have to, the adventure games, I really love them, but I'm not like somebody who could play them blind. So that's why I basically wanted to have players here, to help me out with this whole thing. I'm really happy that worked out. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. It was great to be the fly on the wall, just listening to you guys.
Oh my God, people right now bring stuff back. The Buddy Holly video on the Windows 95.
I listened to that so many times.
Great. Yeah. Or the Hover Tank game. That was also amazing, Darksaber. Hover Tank was great. I think somebody actually wanted to make a remake in that in Unity. I have to look that up.
Was it called Hover Tank? I feel like it was something, because there's the game Hover Tank 3D, which was from id Software.
Yeah.
Back before.
Yeah, but I'm not even sure. I think that game that they shipped with Windows was actually kind of like a licensed game from somebody else. But just like this pinball game was actually licensed from a Maxis pinball collection. Yeah, exactly.
It's in plain sight.
Hover, that's what it was called, right, Kilgore? It's just called
Hover.
It's mine, finders keepers.
It's mine, my wallet.
Yeah, but it's fine, Darksaber. I immediately knew what you meant with that. Didn't that game also have like IPX network play?
I don't know.
You can play with your friends.
It's not so easy.
The modern Windows.
Did that. I need to look that up right now. Hover for Windows 95. Yes, there it is. Oh my God, it looks much worse than I had it than I imagined it. But that's always like that with your memories, right? Your memories. So it's like, yeah. Man, and the Maze Windows 95 screensaver.
Also good. I think there was a Hellbender demo, maybe with one of the Windows, but not the full version.
I think so. No, it was just a demo. I remember that.
We'll play it your way. For now.
If you really want to cringe about all that Windows nostalgia, look up Windows 95 Friends. There is a promo video from Windows with Jennifer Aniston and who was that one co-star she had on? Matthew Perry?
Probably.
Him? Yeah. My God, that's the cringe. You can look that up on actually all Windows promo videos that exist on YouTube are incredibly cringy and definitely worth looking at.
Doom 95, have you ever seen that one? Starring Bill Gates.
Oh yes. Yes.
That's not bad.
There's also like a Windows 386 rap that goes for like 15 minutes or something like that. If you survived that, you deserved to change to Linux and never look back. Oh, dearie me.
Okay, I think we got like 5 minutes left, so I feel like I'm gonna speedily use one of the machines.
We'll talk later. Don't leave town.
Because let's see, where would I go?
You got any gluten-free donuts?
The Fingertron. I'm gonna try and get the Fingertron done quickly as possible.
Yeah, sounds good. Then after that, we're gonna have Kilgore Trout, a new episode of Turok 2, the remastered edition by Night Dive Studios.
I've been enjoying that as well.
Oh yes, Turok 2. I just put it on back burner recently, especially like now with Thimbleweed Park.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm gonna finish Thimbleweed Park now, and then I want to get back into Turok. Actually, I think if I should replay Turok 1 as well and play them all on highest difficulty.
Yeah, I've been playing Turok 2 on hard. It's a decent challenge, not too hard, but I think I'd get bored on normal.
It's the only thing, I was considering doing that on stream, but I just read that it's like, that there were some enemies that were just very bullet spongy, and I was just on the release stream. I just wanted to show as much as possible, and not just stand in front of an enemy for 5 minutes, pump it full of lead, and then just to get to the next enemy and do the same thing all over again. I had enough of that.
Oh yeah.
I had enough of that in Unreal, where every game is a bullet sponge. Every enemy is a bullet sponge.
Who is all this male dressed?
Turok, where the hell do I go to? See, and then that's I find it kind of funny, because nowadays we're always like, oh, every first-person shooter is just a hallway shooter, and then you go back to one of those games that is not a hallway shooter. It's like, where do I go? I had to say, don't get me wrong, I'm not making fun of you guys. I had the same thing with Doom, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm definitely not gonna make it to the Fingertron. I'm sorry, guys. You're gonna have to play the game.
Yeah, you have to play it yourself, and I definitely think that, like, if you thought what you saw so far was fun, then you will have a whole lot of fun with this game. Like, if you love LucasArts old style, LucasArts style adventure games, you owe it to yourself to buy this game. That's my opinion. Do that.
You're a federal agent.
You're a federal agent. How did you know?
One government agent to another. I'll do what I can to assist.
Nibbles. Oh, Nibbles was good. I liked Gorilla's best. Gorillas.bass.
I remember I got QBasic 7, and the thing with that was you could make exe files.
Oh, really?
What I did was I wrote a thing that looked like a format C. That did this whole dialogue, and when you pressed no to format your hardware, your hard drive, it would still do like formatting 2%, 3%, and stuff like that. And then it would give you the C prompt, and whatever you enter was, command not found.
That's evil.
Yeah, and I would put that on the boyfriend of my sister's computer, and he went crazy. I put it in the auto exec, so it would the system would boot up, format, no, formatting, and then command not found. I had like an exit sequence where you just had to enter like a specific word. I think actually I made it 42.
Yeah.
So, and then it would go out there, and man, he didn't like me very much that day. I don't know why. I think it was a whole lot of fun.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Oh, memories, Nate, but it looks like our time is up.
Yeah, our time is up. But it was a whole lot of fun, guys. I hope you guys here in chat had a lot of fun as well, as much as I did. I hope you enjoyed Ron Gilbert. I hope we can have him back one day again.
For sure.
And now we need to, and will make room for Kilgore for a new episode of Turok 2. We talked about this. You should definitely stay tuned for that, because that is an amazing game as well. 8-bit evil nerd confirmed. Yes, that looks good. Let's leave it at that. Let's go out. Unfortunately, Kilgore is next. No, fortunately, he's next. Fortunately.
Fortunately.
All right.
All right, guys. So
Good
when are we
night.
gonna see you next? Actually, 8-bit.
Me? Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. Will we do our new schedule already? I don't think we're pretty much done with it already, but probably next Thursday. Probably next Thursday.
Okay. Well, stay tuned. And I'll be here next week. I think I'm going to be playing Maniac Mansion. We'll see. And of course, tomorrow on my channel.
Maniac Mansion? On your channel? Oh.
No. I'm going to be playing... Because Day of the Tentacle contains Maniac Mansion.
Oh, that's great!
And so
that's great.
Yeah. We'll see.
That's amazing. Awesome.
Anyway, stay tuned, guys, for Kilgore Trout. He's coming up very soon. Thank you so much for joining us. And thanks, 8-bit, for the awesome interview with Ron Gilbert.
Thank you. It was a whole lot of fun. Good night, everybody.
See you guys.